A very warm welcome to IDFC FIRST Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. I'm Ritwika Gupta, and on the show today we'll be deep diving into the world of skincare and beauty with none other than Deepika Padukone, who's going to be chatting with me about her brand 82 East that completes a year in India. On the hot seat is also Jigar Shah, co-founder 82 East, who's going to be talking to me about the trends to look forward to in the beauty industry. Thank you so much, Deepika, for being on Leaders of Tomorrow.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you. Firstly, congratulations on completing a year with 82E.
Thank you.
And definitely, I'd like to ask you, before we get to 82E, I just want to know, what prompted you, to get into the world of skincare and beauty and also into entrepreneurship, if you could tell us about that.
Good. I'm glad you asked that question because it helps me set some context. So even before getting into skincare and beauty specifically, I think it was definitely playing on my mind for a couple of years that I wanted to start my own brand.
Yeah.
That was just sort of a thought in my head, but what category, when, none of that was clear.
Right.
Over a period of time, it became clear that whatever brand that it is will be a self-care brand. And then I started to realize and then skincare happened in a couple of ways. One is as a consumer, and I think a consumer pain point, and I was that consumer, where I felt like skincare in the last couple of years had become extremely overwhelming. There was just way too much information, way too much clutter, too many brands selling too many products, multiple steps, complicated ingredients, some of them you can't even pronounce. And I remember being that consumer who felt extremely overwhelmed. Should I choose a brand and a product that's based in Ayurveda, or should I go with something that is science-backed? Can I mix it? Can I do one thing on one day and another thing on another day? And I said, is there a way to put all of this into one bottle? And that's how 82 East came about. Another part of it is also for me, from a self-care perspective, my skincare ritual in the morning and evening is a very important part of my own self-care ritual. Right? For me, whether it's in the morning or after a long day, just those 10-15 minutes to myself, taking care of my skin, it's almost a meditative process for me, and therefore, it becomes a part of my self-care ritual. So with all of these, factors put together, it felt like skincare was the first category for us to launch, and that's how 82 East and skincare in particular came about.
Right. What does it mean, 82 East? And I've read it myself, but if you could, for our viewers, tell us why 82 East?
Why 82 East? Because look, I was always very clear that I wanted the brand to be rooted in India but global in its appeal. And I wanted the brand name to reflect that. And so when we as a team sat together and we were thinking through, different ideas, there were some very typical names that were coming up, and then some extremely sort of names that didn't feel rooted. Right. And then one day we were going through this exercise and 82 East came up. And as you know, 82 East is the longitude that runs through the heart of India, and it also kind of defines where India rests on the global map. So it just felt like rooted yet global, and I remember all of us in the room looking at each other and feeling like, yes, we've hit the nail on the head, and this is it. It feels Indian, it is India, it is Indian, it feels rooted but also extremely global in its appeal, and that's how it came about.
Tell me, Deepika, what do you think today's Indian woman wants when it comes to skincare and beauty?
Well, I think one is authenticity and honesty. I think in anything that you do, I think that's what they're looking at. But specifically, since we're talking about skincare, I think honesty and authenticity. And I think for us, right from our formulations to the fact that Every single ingredient of ours is mentioned on the packaging. So I think that's one of the filters. I think the second filter is consistency. Whatever you say and whatever you do it with consistency. And I think the third is education. I think along with being transparent and along with being honest, along with being consistent, I think people seek education, they want to learn. And I think along with our community and along with our consumers, we are also learning on this journey. So I feel like, if I had to summarize, I feel like these are the three key things that people are looking for today.
So, when you look for a brand, in terms of investing in a brand or like endorsing a brand, what are the specific factors do you look out for? What is important for you? Do you have a checklist as such?
Yes, I mean, of course the business aspect of things also have to make sense. But I think beyond that, it's my gut. I've always, whether it's my choice of movies or the brands that I endorse or, the brands that I invest in, I think for me, all of that is just a gut feeling, and some of them will pay off, some of them may not. But I've always heavily relied on my gut, and it has to feel like an authentic extension and expression of who I am and what I believe in.
Right. Earlier in the year, I think when you guys started out with this, you were explaining to Shah Rukh Khan, the skincare routine, and that was really fun. It was very quirky. Are we going to expect such more quirky campaigns with other celebrities and stuff?
More than celebrities, I think it's about leveraging different opportunities that come about in my journey. So I think at the time Pathaan was releasing and it felt like an interesting thing to do. Soon after, I remember presenting at the Oscars, and I remember wearing a little 82 East tattoo on my neck, which was there but also not there. And then, if I'm not mistaken, I think during the World Cup, FIFA World Cup trophy unveiling that I did a whole, like, my skincare routine and what I use and my entire routine before I actually got ready for the event. So I think whenever the opportunity arises, I think we'll always find a way to seamlessly integrate. But it also doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel like marketing, or it doesn't, because that is my routine, that's what I do. And 82 East is an extension of who I am. So it kind of happens pretty organically.
Right. And is product drop a well thought out strategy as well?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, when you speak to Jigar, I'm sure he'll be able to elaborate on that further. But yes, absolutely, it's very much a part of our initial strategy and how we wanted to launch our products. It also allowed us, I think, to just get consumer insight and feedback. And while we have a plan, it also allows us to incorporate the feedback that we get month on month.
Nice. So, Deepika, on our show, Leaders of Tomorrow, it's watched by a lot of young entrepreneurs. Tell me, as a celebrity entrepreneur, what advice would you have for young entrepreneurs who want to get into this space, especially young women entrepreneurs, who are navigating the business landscape?
Wow, I think they're two different questions, because I think when you talk about entrepreneurship in general, I think it's finding that what you are truly passionate about mixed with a gap that you might see in the market. I feel like it has to be, that's the sweet spot. But most importantly, it has to be authentic to the entrepreneur and whatever it is that you decide to do. You have to be honest, you have to be authentic, and you have to be consistent in that journey. And patience, very important, male or female. I think any sphere of life, I think patience is key. I think often we tend to get, and especially today in the age of social media, there is a tendency to get carried away. There is a tendency to get distracted. There is a tendency to lose your focus. And I think that need for instant gratification, and I think to sort of put your head down and to keep working consistently and to be patient, I think is extremely important.
Tell me, is there a big difference being an actor and being an entrepreneur as well, or is it actually pretty much similar?
It's different and similar in a lot of ways. It's different because it's something entirely new for me. This is something I've been doing now maybe for the last 2 or 3 years, but acting is something I've been doing for the last 15, 20 years. So obviously the familiarity but I think the fact that even, and the fact that we've built this brand on our own ground up, allows me to do and engage with different people and do different things, so I don't know, unless I played the role of an entrepreneur or a skincare junkie, I don't know if I'd have the opportunity to engage at a product level, understand ingredients, R&D, or packaging, or things like I'm learning now, whether it's warehousing, whether it's raw materials, whether it's marketing. Marketing, you're still kind of familiar with as an actor because we all have to, market our movies at some point. So that's something I'm slightly more familiar with. But I think some of the things on the business side, right, HR, for example. So I think all of these things. So definitely, there's a lot to learn, and I think acting is also that. You get to meet a lot of people, and with the different characters that you play, you get to learn a lot. So I think they are similar and different in equal measure.
Well, finally, tell me, what is your vision for 82 East? How do you see the brand really evolving in India?
I think from an offline perspective and growing the brand, I think it's an exciting time. We've completed 1 year. Again, I think Jigar will be able to elaborate on that more, but definitely looking at expanding the brand, not just in India, but globally as well, including offline presence.
Well, it was lovely chatting with you, Deepika. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching IDFC FIRST Bank presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11 in conversation with Jigar Shah. Jigar, thank you so much for joining us on Leaders of Tomorrow.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's start with the big picture, Jigar. If you could tell us your outlook, on the beauty and the skincare market in India, what are the opportunities do you see in this space?
So, just on the outlook part, I think it's very, very positive. Without getting into too many numbers and all of that, I'll cite a very simple statistic. So the per capita spend in BPC in India is about, depending on the report, it's about $10 per capita to $15 per capita, right? And if you contrast that with the Western markets, especially the US, it's more in the range of 300, right? So from that journey from 15 to 300, I'm not saying we are going to get there very soon, but like even the journey from a 15 to a 50 is a very, very exciting journey. Within that, if we double click a bit, more specifically what we are seeing is two clear trends. One is that of premiumization, right? So if you see the BPC or even skincare as an industry growing roughly 10-12% CAGR, within that, if you double click and focus more on premium, that's growing at twice as fast, right? Okay. So roughly 20% kind of a CAGR. So that's where we see a clear white space. Also, especially a country like India, where we've just about reaching that $2,500 of GDP per capita, right? I think we've seen this in China, where once you reach that point is when the spends on discretionary changes, and I believe that's what we will very soon experience also in India, right? So the aspiration quotients will go up, and premium as a trend will be a very, very important one. The second trend is that of simplification is what I feel will be very strong. I think increasingly I think the consumer's journey or consumer's life is becoming more and more busy. They're always on the go. They don't have time for complex routines. Sure. So less is more, minimalistic kind of an approach, and a simple yet very effective kind of set of products is what we feel like consumers will be wanting as we go into this next decade.
Sure. So then my next question to you would be that, in a landscape, that is also filled with a lot of other beauty products as well, how do you think 82 East stands apart from competition?
Well, first and foremost, we have Deepika. But like, I think more sort of at a granular level, right? I think we're one of the first, if not the first brand to marry best of India and science into one bottle. That's been DP's sort of dream, where she wanted to sort of get not sort of struggle between why pick just an Ayurvedic product or why pick just a science-based product. Why can't we have best of both the worlds into one bottle, right? So for us to have actually achieved that vision and roll out products that are very clearly being loved by our consumers, and that's been evidenced in our repeat rates, NPS scores, or product ratings, right? Sure. That's definitely one area where we differentiate ourselves. Second area is we build products which are very, very high quality, high performance. Okay. Each and every of our product is clinically tested, dermatologically tested, clinically tested for efficacy, dermatologically tested for safety. Sure. Thirdly, I think the overall authenticity and honesty with which we approach, right, the overall brand, I think that truly reflects in our product, and that's also why consumers really love us. So, yeah. And sorry, one last and an important point is that of simplification, right? Sure. So we've taken a complex 9-step routine and compressed it into a 3-step cleanse, hydrate, protect routine, right? So we're one of the first brands, and we're proud of that, has sort of, achieved that objective of simplifying our skincare journey for our consumers, right? Sure. So these are some of the ways where we feel we are different and from the clutter that is there in the industry.
Right. Picking up from what you just said, could you elaborate on the approach, when it comes to your products, the research and development? And you also mentioned science-backed approach, right? If you could just talk to us a little bit about that. I
think broadly broken into 3 steps. First is a concept, kind of a brief, right? Mm-hmm. So what kind of a segment we are playing. Within that, the cleanse, hydrate, protect framework, whether we're launching a cleanse product or a hydrate product or a protect product. So that's the brief and the concept note that we prepare in terms of depending on a variety of factors, both from a gap perspective, industry size perspective, and that's the brief that goes to R&D, right? Then the R&D team, through their extensive experience, goes into every single ingredient that is going to be used in the product, right? Sure. And all our actives, we get into the detail where we check efficacy at an active level, right? So we, like when we say turmeric shield, we just don't go and buy turmeric, like regular turmeric that's available in the market, right? We'll get into that extract of turmeric, which there is evidence of efficacy. In most cases, these extracts are also clinically tested, right? Once that is sourced is when R&D will actually combine, let's say we are making a moisturizer, right? So they will have 2-3 iterations of moisturizer that comes Deepika and my way. And Deepika herself tests each and every of these products on her own skin before it gets into clinical and dermat. So she's what we call the guinea pig in terms of all. So each and every product that you see in the market has been tested by her, right? And only when she feels confident about rolling that product out in the market is when we finally move the product from an R&D stage to a clinical and dermatological sort of a phase where we test each and every of our products across 40 plus, almost close to 50 people for efficacy, and then it's also dermat tested for safety. And that's how we finally launch the products. That's really the process that we follow in terms of launching any product and the science that goes behind it.
Right. Jigar, the theme for our show this season is Ideas for New India. Yeah. So I want to actually ask you, what are some of the big ideas, the big trends, that you think will have the potential to change the game for the skincare industry in India? Because this is also an exclusive that we are doing as part of our year-enders. What would you have to say about that?
I think similar to the first question, right? I think increasingly simplification is a trend that we are seeing very clearly sort of play out. I think more and more consumers prefer to do less but have the same impact. So that's one very clear trend that we are seeing. And then within that, I would say, I think the convergence of self-care and skincare is also a very interesting sort of angle. I think beauty is not just outside. Beauty, it's equally important to focus on beauty inside. Lastly, what we are seeing is also a bit of multi-purpose. And by multi-purpose products, I mean not just at a packaging level, but also at a formulation level. So we are increasingly seeing this skinification kind of a trend, where even color cosmetics products these days come with skincare benefits, right? So these are the few sort of trends that we see which will move the needle a bit in the next decade or so.
Jigar, our show Leaders of Tomorrow, it also caters to a lot of smaller, medium-sized businesses, young entrepreneurs, independent entrepreneurs. What advice would you have for, entrepreneurs who want to get into the skincare space in India?
Yeah, I'll take a leaf from 82E's journey and our philosophy, right? I think just because, I always say this, that just because there's a celebrity is not why you should do a business. And I'm not saying every business or every startup has a celebrity, but what I'm trying to say is the focus should be on a consumer, and your understanding as an entrepreneur of a consumer pain point needs to be very, very accurate. Your read of that, of the market needs to be very accurate, right? So anyone who's starting out or wanting to start out, my advice would be to sort of focus on what that pain point they're trying to solve, and then reflect on what solution you have. Is your solution truly differentiated, right? What we call in startup parlance, is it a painkiller or is it a vitamin, right? And try to be the more painkiller you are, the more chances of you succeeding and building a sustainable business, right? So those are some of the 2 bits I'll give to all budding entrepreneurs.
Right. And before I let you go, tell me what else can we expect from 82 East in the coming years? Are there going to be new product categories, or what can you tell us?
Yeah, so we're launching 2 new very exciting categories very soon. So that's something that's definitely coming up. For us, I think we've hit that 1-year mark where a lot of learning is something that we've acquired over the last 1 year. We've spoken to a lot of our consumers, and as I mentioned, right, like whether it's our consumer product rating or our NPS scores or our repeat rates, that tells us a lot about our value proposition working, right? So we are at a point where we started with 2 products, we are at a 12 product point, and we feel we are ready to sort of expand. And expansion will be not just across products and categories, it will also be across different geographies, as well as across different sort of channels, right? Whether it's a marketplace or an offline channel. So that's something that you can expect from 82 East in the next few months to a year.
Well, all the best to you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. With that, it's a wrap on this episode of IDFC FIRST Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 11. We hope you enjoyed the conversations. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.